Breya time once again. This time I'm up against my Camon playing Skithiryx the Blight Dragon. When this game began, my Camon made some comment about whether or not the game would result in a YouTube video, and sure enough, it did. I find, as you know, Skithiryx probably the best of the mono-black generals, although given how much faster the format is, I think that mono-black in general is not quite as good as it used to be, and the infect damage comparatively less effective than it used to be as well, since it's much easier to deal lethal damage in other ways. I still think maybe the best black general, given that the other really good black commander, the black god Erebos, is considerably less powerful, given that you have less life to work with. I'm playing Breya, as you know, and have a hand that's right on the borderline of keepable. I think in retrospect, given how weak my hand is against Skithiryx, and kind of what a Skithiryx type deck would be doing, I think I probably should have mulliganed this. It is nice to kind of look at 2 land and a will to get one of the fetch lands back, and a Grim Monolith to kind of do some groovy stuff. I mean, I guess I could just Quake for 4 on the turn that he plays the Skithiryx, provided he couldn't regenerate it. That's not really a particularly good route to victory, and the rest of my hand is really quite clunky. Umezawa's Jitte obviously not designed to be used against a mono-black deck, and very inappropriate for the matchup. Quake also kind of falling into that same category. So in retrospect, I probably should have mulliganed this. I think it was pretty greedy to keep it. I think that overall, probably more than 50% of my 6-card hands plus a scry would be better than this. But I'm keeping it, and I'm stuck with it. And he's going first. And he casts Imperial Seal, which invariably will go get a... I guess he mulliganed once. Go get a mana source. Necro, right off the top. Well, that's certainly great to have, and I do have 2 black sources already. Though I don't really want to have to fetch a scrubland with the Windswept Heath, given that I've got the Forbidden in my hand. But I do have the flexibility of recurring it with Yawgmoth's Will. So I'm going to play this Windswept Heath just as protection against Wasteland or Strip Mine over my Underground Sea. Because if I don't hit a second land, after playing Underground Sea and he kills it, I'm going to be stuck on Windswept Heath and have an entire hand that's completely stranded and unable to do anything. Alright, well, I know what he tutored for. He plays a Star Compass as well. Counterspell. Okay. Well, I'm protected against a dragon, though I don't have much of a follow-up after that. I'm certainly not going to play the Grim Monolith, given what all the different range of deadly things that he represents at 4 mana and potentially 5. I guess Thoughtseize. Normally I would let this go, but I kind of don't want him to take the Necro. And I don't really want him to take the Grim Monolith. Even though neither of those cards is all that effective right now, I have a long-term game plan that involves putting Necro out, and Necro is devastating against Skithiryx because the deck doesn't deal any damage. So you can just indiscriminately take tons of damage, and with the Will I have the ability to get Scrublands, so that would mean I'm only a single fetch land away from hitting the Necropotence. So I decide that it's better to protect my hand and not even let him know how weak it is, and just counterspell this. Plus there'd be a reasonable chance he would just take counterspell anyway, and this way I deny him the ability to see what's in the rest of my hand. And he plays a Pristine Talisman. These are both cards I think honestly don't belong in a Skithiryx deck, because I think that there's just better options for acceleration. Though I assume he's probably got Charcoal Diamond in here as well, and a few other things. Star Compass just a little weaker than Charcoal Diamond, because there are times when you don't have black lands. Plays Expedition Map, which is really scary given the fact that he can wasteland me. So I really need to get a 3rd land in play. And I do draw it right off the top, which is excellent. So now I have Forbid to block his commander, because he can cast Skithiryx next turn, and it allows me to get rid of these really clunky cards in my hand. So I'm just going to sit tight. So he sacks that, and I'm figuring, man, I hope he doesn't go get a Wasteland or a Strip Mine. I'm going to be in big trouble. And instead he gets Buried Ruin, which I just... Did he really tutor that? No, okay, he got Cavernous Souls. Alright, well that makes sense. And I guess he's not playing the Cavernous Souls because he figures he can just play Skithiryx next turn off the Cavern and give it haste and result in the same amount of damage. And he's got something else to do this turn, which is to cast Sword of Feast and Famine. So that is an odd card to have, I think, in Skithiryx as well, given the fact that without the general, you generally don't have any other creatures to throw that on. But at the same time, it is too much of a threat right now. Plus, I really, really want an opportunity to forbid with buyback just to get this junk out of my hand and to make some use of the forbid. So there go the Jitte and the Rolling Earthquake. Vandal Blast. Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, well, this is definitely a turn where I think I'm going to have to cast Yawgmoth's Will, even though it literally means I'm just going to be putting a Windswept Heath back into play. But at least that gives me a source of red mana off a plateau, which not only enables the Vandal Blast, but allows me to cast Breya next turn. And Breya beats Skithiryx. Just put Skithiryx in that giant pile of commanders that are utterly dominated by Breya's various abilities. I'm going to fetch that and go get a plateau and blow up the Sol Ring, which means that he cannot cast a hasted Skithiryx against me this turn. He only has one card in hand anyway. And I notice the Cavern. So instead of playing that, he plays Coalition Relic. Alright. That's obviously an excellent ramp card, but he has no cards in hand, so all he's going to be doing is just playing a hasted Skithiryx next turn. And if I draw black mana here, he's going to be in deep trouble. Deluge. Alright, that's fine. So after some thought of holding onto the Forbid and potentially just using Forbid with buyback to throw away the Grim Monolith and the Toxic Deluge, I realized that with whatever, this is 7 mana available, so I'm going to have to counter... Oh, that's right, of course, I can't even counterspell the stupid dragon because of Cavern of Souls. So there's no reason to sit on the Forbid. I assume that he's just going to play that next turn. So I'm just going to play Breya instead to challenge the Skithiryx. So he charges end of turn. I'm hoping, really hoping he doesn't draw something huge and bomby this turn. That is not huge and bomby, although it does mean he can play Skithiryx for a while. So down comes this Mighty Dragon. Gives it haste. I'm just going to take this, of course, since the first 8 from him don't matter. Mana Vault. Alright, well that's quite nice. So I can just bash for 5 here. Keep the one Thopter back to block in an emergency. But I have every intention of just nuking the Skithiryx anyway, since this is a -4/-4 ability, which just completely owns the regeneration on his creature. I intend to do it during the combat step. So he sacks the Buried Ruin, and he targets Expedition Map, which is another strange play. I figure he's got to be getting a Wasteland or a Strip Mine at this point, and he gets Inventor's Fair. Really baffling. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Either way, I'm just going to block. And I'm going to throw both the Thopters at this Skithiryx here. And he can't even do anything because he spent all of his mana to go get the Inventor's Fair. So feeling pretty solid here. My plan is to basically see what I play, hopefully get a black mana source and play Necro, and then I can just use Breya plus the Mana Vault to blow up the Skithiryx when he replays it. And I still have the Toxic Deluge as a backup anyway, so I'm not really scared. And then I'm rewarded immediately for having 7 mana in play by drawing Karn Liberated. Yum. And seeing the Karn Liberated, probably knowing that I'm going to be taking a very important card from his hand with it, and he doesn't really realistically have a way of getting back into this game. He can replay his general and give it haste, but the Breya and the Karn, between the two of them, are just going to own his next play, and he doesn't have the ability to represent lethal with it, so he wisely packs it in. So I thought this is another pretty solid game demonstrating just how strong Breya is against the diverse assortment of commanders you're likely to meet. Completely crushes mono black due to all the tools that you play with in the Breya deck that the mono black deck can't interact with, and the general wins that war as well. So even without casting Necropotence and with that somewhat clunky early draw, I felt like I was able to dominate the game pretty effectively and win in short fashion. Hope you guys enjoyed that game. I've got a lot more Breya shenanigans to come. See you soon.